You were probably told your anxiety starts in your thoughts, that it's irrational thinking, catastrophizing, stress, overthinking. But what if that's only part of the story? What if your nervous system is struggling to process stress properly in the first place? Because for years, my anxiety didn't feel mental, it felt physical. My heart would suddenly start racing for no reason. I'd wake up instantly anxious in the mornings. My body felt stuck in fight or flight. I was constantly wired but exhausted. And even tiny amounts of caffeine would completely wreck me. And the scariest part? Sometimes there weren't even anxious thoughts attached to it. My body would just suddenly feel like danger was happening. It was bizarre, like this wave of adrenaline would hit out of nowhere. It honestly felt like my nervous system lost the ability to calm down. And if you relate to this, I need you to understand something. You are not crazy. And you may not simply be an anxious person, because what I eventually discovered changed the way I understood anxiety completely. So several years ago, about 5 years ago, I ended up in the ER, convinced something was seriously wrong with my heart. I had chest tightness, heart pounding, adrenaline surges, dizziness, that impending sense of doom. It felt incredibly real. But after test after test, I kept hearing the same thing. Everything looks normal. And honestly, that almost made it more frustrating, because if everything was normal, then why did my body constantly feel like it was trapped in survival mode? Why did stress seem to hit me harder than everyone else? Why did caffeine destroy me? Why did my body overreact to everything? Why couldn't I calm down normally after stress like everyone else? That question led me down a rabbit hole that completely changed my life. And eventually I started learning about stress processing genetics, especially COMT and MTHFR. Now, before you click away thinking this sounds weird or fringe, these genetic variants are actually very common. It's estimated that roughly 30% of people may have some version of these gene variants, and most people have absolutely no idea. And no, this does not mean your genes are broken. It also doesn't mean genetics are the only cause of anxiety, but for some people, these genetic differences may increase sensitivity to stress, stimulation, adrenaline, certain nutrients and supplements, and nervous system overload. And suddenly everything started making sense. So let me simplify this as much as possible. Think about your nervous system like a car. Stress hits the gas pedal, and calming down hits the brakes. For some people, their body seems to hit the gas harder than average, but it also struggles to fully hit the brakes afterward, meaning stress chemicals like adrenaline can linger longer, and the nervous system stays activated way longer than it should. That's exactly what my body felt like. Not relaxed anxiety, not occasional nervousness, but constant physiological activation. It was a nightmare. Like my body couldn't fully downshift. And once I understood that, I stopped blaming myself for being weak, because this wasn't simply mindset. This was physiology. Now let's talk briefly about COMT. Again, keeping this very simple. COMT is one of the systems involved in helping break down stress chemicals and certain neurotransmitters. And if this system works more slowly in some people, they may become much more sensitive to things like stress, caffeine, overstimulation, adrenaline, sleep deprivation, even emotional conflict. And honestly, that explained my entire life. It explains why one cup of coffee would make me feel panicky for hours, why stressful situations stayed in my body forever, why my nervous system felt stuck on, why I couldn't recover from stress normally. Then there's MTHFR, which may affect how some people process certain forms of folate and methylation nutrients. Again, very, very common. And for some people, issues in this area may contribute to things like fatigue, overstimulation, poor stress resilience, histamine sensitivity, brain fog, and nervous system dysregulation. Now, here's something really important. I am not saying every person with anxiety has COMT or MTHFR issues. I'm not saying that. And I'm definitely not saying genetics are destiny. But I am saying this. If your anxiety feels deeply physical, like it did for me, if you feel wired but exhausted, if caffeine destroys you, if your nervous system overreacts to everything, if you wake up anxious instantly with morning anxiety, if your body struggles to calm down after stress, There may be a deeper biological stress processing component involved. And for me, discovering that was life-changing because it completely changed how I approached healing my anxiety. So instead of constantly fighting my thoughts, I started supporting my nervous system. I reduced overstimulation. I became careful with caffeine. I prioritized sleep and recovery. I stabilized my blood sugar. I learned that certain supplements and forms of nutrients affected me very differently. I stopped treating my body like it was broken and started treating it like an overloaded system that needed support. And slowly but steadily, my nervous system started calming down. Not overnight, but gradually. And honestly, the biggest shift may have been psychological because for the first time, my symptoms finally made sense. And when your symptoms make sense, you stop feeling helpless. So if you've spent years feeling like your body is stuck in fight or flight, like you're constantly overstimulated, like your anxiety feels more physical than mental, I want you to know this. You are not weak. You are not crazy, and your nervous system may be trying to tell you something important. This channel is about helping people understand the biological and stress processing side of anxiety, because for many of us, that was the missing piece nobody explained. If this resonated with you, subscribe, because I'm going to keep breaking this down in simple terms, and I truly believe understanding your nervous system changes everything.